Hello, hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I am filming my February reading wrap up. I have just really been enjoying my reading so far in 2025, which is just a good feeling, especially after having some form of a reading slump last fall, I guess, fall and into winter. Anyways, it's really nice to just feel fun while reading again. Lowering my reading goal was such a good choice, and yeah, it's just felt fun again, and I'm really happy about that. In February, I read a grand total of 8 books for a total of 2,713 pages. The longest book I read was 671 pages, and that was The Winners by Frederick Bachman. And the shortest book I read was 147 pages, and that was Herland by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. 5 of my books were hard copy and 3 were audiobook. 4 I got from the library or Libby, and 4 of them I purchased. 5 books were fiction and 3 were nonfiction. I have already read more nonfiction than I normally do in a 2-month period, so I'm really enjoying that. I feel like I go through just natural reading spells for whatever my interests are at the time, and a handful of years ago I read, well, I probably still read mostly fiction, but I read quite a large amount of nonfiction. And then it got to, over the last couple years, reading a fair amount of nonfiction, but definitely fiction heavy. And anyways, I'm just curious to see how it will shape out, flesh out, pan out throughout the rest of 2025. Okay, now to highlight some of my books from February. The first one I want to talk about is the book that I read from my physical TBR last month in my wrap-up video and TBR video. I unwrapped one of the books from my physical TBR, and that was The Enneagram Made Simple. I did finish this book. It was good. I liked it. It was not quite what I was expecting because it definitely is more of like an overview or an introduction to the Enneagram. So it was really good content. I really liked it. I thought it was gonna be a bit more in depth. I didn't realize it was like an introduction. So if you are looking for an introduction to Enneagram, this is a great book for that. And I did like at the end of each chapter about each of the numbers, she had some journal prompt questions and some specific affirmations for each Enneagram type to be able to reflect and work on themselves. So I thought that was a really nice thing to include. Next is Herland by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. That was the book club pick for the month of February. I had previously read The Yellow Wallpaper by this author, and I was curious to read some other books by her. So February was my turn to pick the book, so I decided to pick another one of her short stories. I did not realize until after I read it and I was logging it on Goodreads that apparently it is book 2 in a 3-book series. The concept of Herland was quite intriguing to me. It's basically an imagining of a world in which only women live and exist. And there are 3 men who, through a series of events, find themselves in this world, and it's written from the perspective of one of the men, and they are trying to learn and understand and figure out what a world without men is like. So it was very interesting seeing what felt like very real perspectives of what people from our world and society, particularly a man from our world and society, what it might be like to enter into a world of only women. So I found that quite interesting. I also just thought it was so interesting and refreshing to see the possibility of what a world and society could look like. That, not that I'm saying I want a society where only women exist, but like trying to conceptualize what could a society look like that did not have the years and years and years and years and years and years and years of societal expectations placed on women and men. What could it look like to live in a world where people were free to just be themselves and to contribute to the world and society in whatever way they are gifted? I got this book from the library, but I'm going to have to write some of these quotes down because there are some really good quotes at the end just about seeing people as people, seeing people for who they are, conceptualizing of a world in which women exist as people and not as objects or ornaments or solely mothers. It was very interesting. I'm still thinking about it. Next, I did indeed finish Onyx Storm, and I did it as a buddy read with Kat from Curious Cat. She hosted it with several other booktubers, and it was fun seeing the email threads and reading some of the ideas and thoughts that other people were having as they were reading it as well. So that was really fun. Thank you, Kat, for doing that read along. I have so many thoughts. However, I am dedicated to not giving spoilers. If you do not want any hints of any spoilers whatsoever, maybe just skip this next section. I am going to give my rating and I'm going to talk briefly about some of my thoughts. I'm not going to give spoilers as to plot or my theories, but sometimes even, I know some people don't even necessarily want to hear people's ratings of it until they finished it. You do you. If you want to skip this next part, I understand. I did not enjoy this book as much as the first one for sure, or the second one. I was prepared throughout pretty much the whole thing to only give it 3 stars because I was kind of just like, what is happening? And then the last 20, 30 pages, I started to kind of reconnect with the story and start to get that feeling that I had while reading Fourth Wing. And by the end of the book, I think I've decided to give it 3.75 stars, and I will leave it at that. Maybe at some point, maybe when all the books are out, I will do a more in-depth video, or maybe once Onyx Storm has been out for longer, I'll do a more in-depth video and talk about some things that happened and my theories, because there are things that happened and I have theories. Next is Frankenstein, and this was a book on my 40 before 40 list, and the first one that I finished off that list, which is so fun. I actually filmed a full review video that will be up probably, I think I'm gonna upload this one first. So keep an eye out, coming up soon for a full review video, and once that's up, I will link to it on this one. I did enjoy it, but I have not decided yet for sure what I'm going to rate it. It left me asking a lot of questions and feeling a lot of things, and I enjoy that in a book, but it did not wrap things up for me, which I tend to not enjoy for a book. So it's quite an odd mix. I liked it, but it left me a bit unsettled. I explain more in my review video. So I just turned 35, so in order to complete my 40 before 40 list before I turn 40, then I need to read about 8 books a year towards that goal. So I marked 1 off for 2025 and 7 more to go for this year. The last book I'm gonna highlight in this video is The Winners by Fredrik Backman. Obviously, if you've been following my channel for a while, this series comes up in just about every video. I don't even have the words to explain how much this series has affected me. I think it is going to live rent-free in my brain for a long time to come. The Winners was really good. I know I say this every time I talk about Fredrik Backman, but his writing is immaculate. It's so amazing to me that he can have such a huge cast of characters and people that are likable, people that are not likable, people that do heinous things, and the way that he writes them is always with humanity. Like, we're invited in to see the humanity and the complexity of each one of these characters. In The Winners, there are some new characters introduced, and that was kind of fun. I enjoyed seeing how they kind of fit into the story. It still felt like a continuation, obviously, of the Beartown saga, but it also fit to be adding in these other characters and to be addressing some of the more political, I guess, tones from the 2 rival towns. And that was very interesting to me. I have so many thoughts about this book. It's really hard to comment on a lot of them without giving spoilers. And I do generally try to keep my wrap-up videos spoiler-free. So suffice it to say, I really liked this book. There were tears shed. There were lots of tears shed. And it was the perfect ending to this series. The question still stands. Will I ever not be mentioning Beartown in every video I make in perpetuity? I don't know. I don't even know. This series, yeah, it's really good. If you have not read Fredrik Backman, or if you have not read the Beartown series, I do highly recommend it. I would recommend checking some trigger warnings before starting. It is very deep, very heavy, very emotional, but so well done. For my March TBR, which wild to me that we're already 2 months into 2025, I am going to unwrap another book from my physical TBR. So look at me just zooming through my physical TBR this year. I really hope to be able to read at least one a month off of my physical TBR. I also think I need to wrap some other books. I had some books sitting on my shelf and I'm like, at what point am I going to wrap them? I feel like wrapping them is for when I'm like, okay, these books have been on my shelf for too long. They got to be wrapped. We've got to put them into the circulation if I'm not going to like read them on my own. So I have some books that I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap and put them in this list to be randomly picked. But let's see what it's going to be for March. I like this one, but I am nervous. I say that every time. I'm nervous. Okay, number 3. Another short one. Okay, let us see. Okay. The Whole Brain Child by Daniel Siegel. 12 Revolutionary Strategies to Nurture Your Child's Developing Mind. I've had this book for a very long time. I think I've started this book twice. This is a good book, but it is science-y. Wait, is this the one that I started? Because he's written some other books. Maybe it's another book by him that I started that was super intense and science-y. And so maybe I was just intimidated by this one. Now I can't remember. Anyways, I'm anticipating this to be hard to get through, but very good. Okay, we'll see how this goes. So this will be one of my top priorities in March because and it's not that long. It is, well, it looks like it's a lot of charts at the end, but counting those charts, 168 pages. So it's not that bad. And not counting the charts and stuff, like just the actual text, it is 149 pages. So yeah, it's not too bad. Other than that, I don't have like specific books that I really feel like I need to get to. So I'm gonna wait to see what comes up from the library, my library holds, and my Libby holds, and then just mood read and see how it goes. So until next time, happy reading.